You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching the Meta Show.
And we're live.
Yes, we are.
It is good to be back, ladies and gentlemen. We have a really interesting show today. We're going to be focused mostly on CSM stuff because the CSM minutes revealed a whole lot of things that tell us a lot about what's really going on within CCP. So it's going to be an interesting one. If you're a CCP watcher, lots of subs here. We have Aerith, we have PB Stuff, we've got Ronnie, 2 years, nice, 23 months, almost there. And Ralos, thank you very much. Zandril.
Yep.
The Chaos Sausage. There's really no good way to put this. I obviously missed the last 2 weeks of the show because I was in France on a yacht. I think if it's more than 40 some odd feet, it counts as a yacht. A Pinochet, a little canal barge. Had a great time with it. And one of the interesting things shortly after I went on vacation was the news that the blackout was lifting. And now, as of, what was it, just a couple days ago, we got the release of the CSM minutes. And boy, howdy, the CSM minutes. So I want to start things off here with the sort of patient zero of the problem, which was revealed through these CSM minutes. And I'm surprised that CCP allowed this to be made public because it tells you a lot about their decisions and their business practices. So I'd like to introduce a high-sec player, one of a couple of high-sec guests. Aerith, of course, is very well known as a high-sec player in addition to a CSM representative. Apparently, I've been sending high-sec representatives to Iceland for years now, and I just didn't realize it. So how is high-sec, Aerith? And since you're the high-sec guy, tell us about that.
Well, unfortunately, I guess I have finally been revealed as the high-sec puppy that I am, and I'm a long, deep-seated agent within Goonswarm. From the very beginning, that's how early on the puppies knew that they should infiltrate Goonswarm. So I think, tongue-in-cheek aside, this sort of reveals what we're dealing with here. So everyone on Reddit for the last few months has been crowing about data and how important the data, and the data will show everything, which normally that's a perfectly valid thing. You would agree, right?
Yeah.
But not only do you have to wonder about the people interpreting the data, understanding it properly, which is what we've traditionally had to worry about. Now you have to worry about the data itself. So there's just no way for them to have clean data when not only is the data wrong, the people may not understand how to interpret it fully to begin with, without context or without maybe some of the backstory, that why the motivations of players, why they do this at scale and do it in a certain way, that kind of thing, because CCP can't play their own game, which is a huge problem. So, but now this is the first time that publicly, I think CCP's had to admit the data is bad and it's terrible, to the point where this would be the puppy CSM. This would literally be the high-sec CSM, I would think. When you take out all the coons and you make them puppies, and maybe they weren't the only ones. So that's the kind of thing that it goes to show what we're dealing with now is a data problem that transcends interpretation. The data is bad.
So let me see if I understand this correctly. Since I started playing EVE back in the Dark Ages in late 2005, there has been this assumption that is around the entire player base, and it came from CCP, that 80% of the player base are high-sec players, and only a small proportion of the players are null-sec players. Now, obviously, what we saw during the blackout was this just catastrophic decline in people playing the game, because it turns out that there's a lot more than just less than 20% of the player base are null-sec players, because apparently, based upon what we learned from these minutes, CCP has no idea who is a null-sec player versus a high-sec player versus much of anything. Do they recognize this as a problem? And nominate. Can you? Aerith got the first go at this. Nominate. I don't even really know how to like. What the hell, man? What the hell?
There was a post that was just made on Reddit, which is linked in the Discord that you might want to take a look at.
Yeah, I'm gonna link it. Yeah. Wait, where did you link it? Oh, there. You linked it there. Okay, here we go. Bam. What's this post? Oh, by Larkin.
Oh shit, Larkin comes out.
All right, we're gonna do like the whistleblower thing here. So only posted 2 minutes ago, so I'm gonna read this. Nominate. Can you? Do you already know what he was posting here? What do we got?
No, yeah, I'm just seeing this too.
So let me explain my setup so people can understand between my setup, what happened with the data, and what Larkin's saying, how this plays out, right, in a real world scenario. I'm running about 52 characters, 49 of which are in nullsec, 2 of which are in highsec that are only logged in like once a month for 5 minutes to move wallets around, like with TTT and various diplomatic deals that we have, and 1 is my highsec Jita 44 super banker character that does all my major markets, right? Very famous character. It's everyone that does markets knows who it is. Well, that character, it is not uncommon. So even though I log in all my nullsec characters every week or every weekend or every 2 weeks and for a substantial amount of time, that character, though, I often forget. So it'll have the market up and I'll have tons of orders. And I just leave it as background on my main box at home during the day, and not even every day. Probably 3 days a week. But often what happens is I totally forget about that box. Like, who cares that the character's logged or whatever? And so what'll happen is that character will stay logged in until downtime, and then will automatically be kicked if I've forgotten to log it out. That one character can dramatically skew my results based on what Larkin's saying, to where even though I never undock and I don't play anything other than Jita 44 market, that character makes me represented as a high-sec player, which is clearly not true when the other 49 characters are actually doing shit and building things and in space or doing whatever are actually in nullsec. And that shows you the problem, because the way that Eve works, you are required to have a Jita 44 alt if you're any player of any size or multiple accounts or just anything. If you want to function, you need a character that lives there. And so if you're like me and you just leave them logged in for hours at a time, you dramatically skew the statistics for CCP.
So this is everyone who has a Jita alt, whether you're, wormholders need Jita alts too, low secers need Jita alts. Yeah. Everybody needs a Jita alt so you can see what the market prices are, or to monitor the stuff that you've exported to Jita to sell. Like, you go out in low sec or in wormhole space and you're killing stuff, you need to get that to Jita to sell on the market. And so essentially what this reveals, let me get this straight, people's market alts that they just keep up in another window have been counted as real players with a high-sec focus in CCP's decision-making about the needs of the player base? That's fucking stupid.
I hear you. I don't want to go so far as to ascribe
shit, that's dumb.
I don't want to say they make their decisions based on it, but we have heard a lot out over the years about high sec versus null sec populations and why it should get dev attention. And so to hear a bomb drop like this, you're like, are you fucking kidding me right now? The whole premise of how CCP views us as a player base is wrong. And that's why I was immediately like, hey, can we just exclude Jita? And I would actually add perimeter to that. I would say Jita and perimeter should be excluded from those results, and let's rerun them. Because I while I don't necessarily believe it's going to make a massive difference, I bet it's at least 10% or more.
I think it'd be a massive. I think it would be a massive difference. You can't do there's no mining in Jita.
You guys do the main 4 ones, yeah.
There's a whole bunch of shit you can't do in Jita because it has special regulations as far as that system goes. And so if you exclude Jita from that, I think it would be a lot more than just 10%.
Yeah, I more mean if you look at the statistics in Larkin's post, how it says nullsec is 29% and anytime is 36%. I would expect that to jump somewhere to 40-ish, 38 to 42-ish, and then for the first one, and 50% for the second one. That's what I would expect it to.
The dumb thing about this is that CCP already has coded into the game a simple self-reporting mechanism. Now, of course, self-reporting has a whole lot of issues in and of itself, right? Because people could have coordinated campaigns to report one or the other. But at the very least, if their statistics are such shit, the very least thing they could do is have a where they have the "Did you enjoy Eve or Eve Online today?" Thumbs up or thumbs down thing. You could have a 4 little buttons. What area of the game were you focused on today? And people could just mash a button that said, I was doing nullsec stuff. I was doing whatever stuff. Like that was my focus. That was my priority, or some sort of system. Because if these fuckers have no idea what their customers are doing, then it kind of explains why they tried to help and nearly destroyed the game with the era of chaos bullshit. If they think that, wow, I got nothing.
Before we continue here, I forgot that we need to press this button right here. I'm going to press it. We have a giveaway we're doing. One of our wonderful show watchers, our viewers here, donated us a 2.5 billion-ish ship skin for one of the Abyssal ships called the Draugr skin. It's a Draugr skin. It's one of the T2 Abyssal ships. And the skin is called the Niflhel Guild Claw skin. It's one of the ones out of the Berlin thing. So if you want a chance to win that, you can follow the instructions in chat, and it'll tell you how to do it. Yeah, every ticket's worth 10 minutes a time. So if you've been watching for 10 minutes, you can have up to 20 tickets, which is 200 minutes of watching. Anyways, back to the thing. This post is very interesting because it's a great segue moment. We're going to jump around in our notes a bit because I want to talk about wormholes here based on his post. If you look at his post, and if you were to go based on his numbers, 11% of people who have spent any amount of time in wormhole space are making more money than 30% of the player base.
It's risk-free as well.
Insane.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead on that.
What are they doing? How is this possible? Because last time I checked from Reddit, wormholers were the uber PvPers, and the rest of us were just fucking serfs compared to them. And according to this data, they're the ones who are actually the biggest crabs in the game. What have they been hiding? How are they doing it? What's really going on?
So first, let me make the disclaimer. Like for many years, I've been saying I know fuck all about wormholes. I've been very vocal about that publicly, and that's showing here because when Zuki came into the CSM, and this is prior to the summit, this is just him educating us on the side, he started telling us about all their dirty little tricks and secrets. And the bottom line is, wormholers are the biggest baby back bitches in Eve because they've had local this entire time. They've had something better than local, which is basically they had a doorbell. So they have the ability to leave their probe window up and know the moment any signature appears. So they know after they've rolled all their holes and secured their hole, they have a fucking doorbell that has to be rang that they will see before the person's even in system that they can come in the system, and then they can just safe up. And then Zuki dropped some other stats on us, like he was telling us like privately, but he reinforced the like drifter farming on Astrohoos. We had heard about that once before from Noobman, but he put it in context with his own personal ability to make ISK. And basically you can go months at a time without seeing another person in like a C6. You can secure your hole for months at a time where you'll never die. Like the ISK to loss ratio is the most skewed thing in Eve. So basically wormholes are the biggest care bears in Eve.
Wait, even the danger and the actual fights that do happen, a huge number of them are just prearranged fights.
Yeah, they get on Discord. Apparently they get on Discord together, according to Zuki's chat, and they say, okay, we're going to come over to your wormhole today, make sure we can get in, and then they fight each other inside the wormhole. So all these like videos where you see these huge fights where like you're living on the edge of someone dying, that's all prearranged.
So these little bitches have for years been pointing fingers at nullsec players where we have wars of consequence and actual loss. They've had super local. They've been able to make ISK for free, and all of their fights, their big, amazing He-Man wormhole super PvP or bullshit, where it's like finding out that wrestling isn't real, right? Like that this was all just kayfabe or whatever you call it.
That's exactly. That's a perfect.
So they're a bunch of fucking bitches. They've been lying to everybody in the player base the entire time about how they're some superhuman PvPers, when in reality they have super local, they have completely safe ISK, and they're just a bunch of lying pieces of shit who have been daring to look down on actual nullsec warriors and lowsec warriors. Like nullsec and lowsec, we have actual fights. We seek each other out. We hunt each other. And these little bitches have been wandering around on Reddit, sucking Falcon's dick and sucking Hilmar's dick and acting like they're the actual hardcore people in Eve. It's entirely a lie.
Yeah. So it gets better.
Yes.
Holy
His quote,
shit! Fuck
his
these
quote-
guys.
his quote even says here, the most common tactic is to use a citadel to deal with farming drifters. That's the most common way to deal with it. So remember how they complain about how we have all these citadels and we're so safe and they can't farm us because our citadels make us protected. All they do is park, like they aggress drifters, go park up and dock at a citadel, and the drifters come after the citadel, and then they kill them with a citadel.
Well, the funny part is, we learned how to deal with drifters from fucking wormholers because of that goddamn tactic. Zuki's like, here's how you farm them. We're like, thanks, bro.
Yep.
What?
So for those that don't know, those that know, when they released drifters and wormholes to begin with, they would always appear next to the wormhole, and they'd have a huge amount of them. So what they would do is they'd drop a citadel, because the drifters wouldn't shoot the citadel at first. This is when they first came out. And they would let the drifters, like, they would just kill the drifters with the citadel. And so, yeah, that was absolutely hilarious.
These motherfuckers have been shitting on all of the nullsec player base for years, acting like they are some sort of master race who gets to do whatever they want, that they're the best PvPers in the game, that all of us are playing on easy mode compared to them, when they have super local free ISK making, they use citadels to farm drifters. These people have been lying to the player base about how great they are the entire time. Fuck these people. Seriously. If you're a wormholer and you're off doing your own thing, that's great. But so many of these little bitches have been acting on Reddit like they are so much better than everybody else in EVE. These people could fucking eat my ass. This is bullshit. The entirety of the identity of the wormhole player base has been a fucking lie. And I don't see why we should ever let them live it down. They should be forced to acknowledge the fact that they've been playing on easy mode and lying to everybody in the game about it this entire fucking time.
I like this. You're going to like this. His quote gets even better. He says, ruling out disconnections or pilot error, it is 100% safe to perform these ISK-making activities. So here you go. For all of the viewing masses, this was posted 2 years ago by one of the, I think he was in Hard Knocks at the time, prominent wormholers, Mr. Capri-Sun Calf Foods. He shows a video of how to make 8 billion ISK an hour with only 3 million skill points.
Well,
think about that for a second.
If you think about it, you look at the MER and they're farming 12 trillion. You look at Larrikin's stats that he just posted. You can do the math that their ISK per person is dramatically higher than anywhere else in space, like to the point where it's almost an order of magnitude higher.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
But it's the 0-0 people that are ruining this game with their AFK farming.
Meanwhile, all you have to do is look at Z Killboard, look up Delve on Z Killboard and see just how safe nullsec actually.
Oh, please tell us. Go ahead and nominate. How safe do you think it is?
Well, I mean, Delve is a slaughterhouse.
Which is good. It's the way it should be. I mean, the thing about this is one must have adversity to have strength. You need to have something to fight against. I'm just so, for years, ever since wormholes were introduced, like, it's not just during the blackout thing, guys. One of the reasons why I'm so pissed off about this is that, wormholes were like, I try to be aware of the boundaries of my ignorance, right? I don't know much about wormholes, so I've never really looked into wormholes. Like, we are nullsec empire builders, so that's where my focus is, and I've never really bothered paying attention to how life in wormholes are. Like, I've spent a little time in a hole before, but it wasn't really like my lifestyle or play style. And for years, ever since wormholes been introduced, there has been this smug, superior, we're the real PvPers, we're playing on hard mode, you guys have local and we're hard men because we don't have local, and you guys are all, basically, they've been calling the entire EVE Online player base pussies for ever since Wormhole Space was implemented, and it turns out the entire thing was a pack of lies. And it's laughable and it's disgusting, and I am filled with contempt and disgust towards all of these motherfuckers who have been daring to look down on all of low-sec, all of high-sec, all of null-sec for all these years, and just promoting a fucking lie about how they're playing real EVE when reality, it's professional wrestling. That's all it is.
Oh, it gets even better. So you're going to like this too. And the thing about the wormholes that is interesting is that all the C6s where all this money making does occur have been mapped out and controlled. So it's like if you took Delve, made it so you couldn't sino into it, You can only enter through 1 or 2 gates in the whole region. And then it's controlled by all your friends who share Discord together and arrange fights. It's just a stream of money. It's just a stream of money.
It's honorable space joust between a bunch of Care Bears. So yeah.
They're the fucking Bushido.
But this is a great segue here, and I got to ask if this is real, because I don't believe this. After all the years of them claiming that we should report people.
And Hilmar's playing in fucking wormholes now. Hilmar is a fucking wormholer, isn't he? He's been talking about how he's a wormholer.
Yep.
Motherfucker! Are you kidding me?
Yep. He spent months playing in wormholes. But here's a great segue, because you're going to like this if you want to get more angry. And I quote, CCP Nemesis seems extremely clueless on what can be botted. Smart Bomb Radiant Supercarriers Titans. To quote, CCP Nemesis asks if smart bombing battleships anomalies are bottable. To which the CSM replied...
Who is CCP Nemesis? Because there's been so much staff turnover at CCP that I can't tell who's who, and I don't recognize...
That was the next question. Go ahead, please.
Either. I remember that incident when it happened, and that question came up because I was dumbfounded by it. I think I was the first to answer.
He's asking about bots.
Is he
what team is he on? What is?
I'll tell you in a second.
Yeah, look it up because I don't remember.
Okay, when I look it up, let's see if I can find him.
Because if you tell me that he's on Team Security, I'm gonna fucking have an aneurysm here on live TV.
I'm trying to figure out what is there like an employee ejectory, because this is hard to find here.
Does anybody in chat know CCP Nemesis?
He's on Team Security.
I just said I would have an aneurysm if it turned out he was that. Let's verify that he's not on Team Security.
CCP Nemesis was tasked with to lead this project and enable it to tackle botting from the minutes.
Oh, I think we know him as a different name.
No, it's in the minutes on like the second or third page.
Is this the one we call?
He's
got the
senior
quote.
Director, Customer Fraud.
Yeah.
So he's supposed to be against.
I think he deals with RM
botting.
Like.
So is he on? And
yes.
And what were can you please spell out what questions this guy was asking?
Okay, so the question was asked if smart bombing battleships and anomalies are bottable. The CSM says that this is the case and is a common tactic. He then asks if they have heard of any verified supercarrier bots, and the CSM replies absolutely. He then asks if it's possible to use a Titan for botting, which Billy replies yes. Here's my thing. They have literally moved Titans and Supers to HiSec to let people kill them and said, these are bots, these are RMTers, kill them. Just kill them. So, how the fuck?
Okay, CSM, let's ask.
No, can I rage for a second? Because didn't they for fucking years tell us to report bots and to do their job for them? And they don't even know the fucking common ways to bot. Literally the most common botting fucking ship in the game was Carrier Super Carrier for the last 3 fucking years. And you mean to tell me that they want us to do the reporting because they don't even know it's possible? What the fuck are these guys? What kind of weed are they smoking? Because I need to get it. I need to get a piece of this.
It's a little bit of a digression, but something interesting has come out of Blackout in that a lot of the face of botting has changed. We've started to see bots moving to HiSec. We've started to see exploration bots have become a thing. Like you can get posted on Reddit. We've killed a couple on some of our fleets, and there's just Asteros botting exploration. Botting in EVE is pretty sophisticated, and they're pretty quick to adapt to changes in the game.
Okay, so here's the question. I want to get some background for the CSMs before I flip my shit. Which is, so this has been revealed in the minutes, so you can talk about the conversation that's in the minutes. When this guy who is supposed to be tasked to solving botting is asking you these questions that are obvious to anyone in the player base, even if they're not in nullsec, if you just read Reddit for the last however long, or Imperium News, or anything about EVE Online, you know about people hunting supercarrier ratters who are botting, for God's sakes. Was this guy asking you like pro forma questions like, have you ever encountered this? Have you ever encountered that? And he already knew the answers, like a prosecutor asking questions? Or did this guy seem to legitimately, was your impression as CSM members, did this guy not actually know the answers to the questions he was asking?
I think my impression was that it was more about how prolific it was, not a question of, is this a thing that exists?
Aaron?
So I'm going to answer it in a slightly off way. One of the things we have to do as CSM is you're trying to be professional in the room, and you don't want to make a new CCP employee feel dumb, right? There's a lot of intimidation factor when it comes to a CCP employee coming to talk to us as CSM. A lot of them have told us straight up, we're intimidated by it. Like, we know that you know the game better than we do. So I try to have that half-second reaction, like, Jesus Christ, this question, and then I answer it like very calmly and straightforward. And typically, like, the shorter my answer is with them, the more dumb I think the question was, right? Where it's just like Billy going, yes. You can, we all want to say, like, are you fucking kidding me right now? Like, you have the data. What the hell? You've been teleporting, but we don't do that. It's always, yeah, we try to be professional. So I try to go easy on them, especially the new CCPers. Like, they're new to the game. They might not know Eve. Right. I try to go light touch on those guys. But if Fozzie had asked that or something, I'd have went nuts.
This guy's new. That's different. Like, if he's new to the company, then there's no reason for me to blow a gasket about it. But you'd think that if they had put this guy in charge of tackling botting as a problem, they would have briefed him internally with everything that they knew about, and that he could have like Googled or done.
Where's the changeover? Yeah, that's the question. Where's the changeover? Where's the previous guy's vast amount of knowledge that does then pass to the next guy? So he doesn't come in asking these questions. This is concerning because they just did this huge bot ban just recently to go along with their numbers of people not playing the game metric stats. Remember this? Just a couple weeks ago, they posted their metrics of who's not logging into the game or who's logging into the game, and they included in the same thing a dev blog about all the bots they've banned and all the RMTers they caught. So if they don't even know the most common ways to bot, are they just randomly banning people? Or are they just the most obvious idiots?
They claimed that they were doing a banning wave during the blackout, and that was responsible for the numbers going down, which I guess we'll probably never know, because obviously the numbers are not going down because of bots, because people came back and the numbers recovered after the blackout was turned off. But if they were doing a big banning wave, why didn't the guy, even if he's relatively new to CCP, why didn't the guy who's supposed to be in charge of customer fraud and dealing with botting and stuff like this, shouldn't he have been aware that there was a ban wave going on and what was getting banned for what? Like, what? It's like the left hand. I mean, it's a classic CCP story. The left hand does not know what the right hand is doing, and dude, what the fuck, basically.
There is a lot of that at CCP where it is very clear there's very little coordination between the teams. Like, this isn't new. This has been going on for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Where the right hand left thing, especially that marketing team, they will do, like, marketing, or maybe Kevin, they will do crazy shit. Like, the rest of CCP doesn't even seem to know what's about to happen, or gets very little notice. And then has these massive kind of effects throughout the game. I'm not saying they're doing all bad things or anything like that. I'm just saying that there's definitely a coordination layer gone at CCP that I haven't seen in a while.
Oh, here you go.
The fucked up thing about this is that we end up seeing, and I think I said this on the show a few weeks back, and it's even more true now that we have the evidence for the CSM minutes, is that even the humblest nullsec empire, like, I mean, pick on whichever one you want to say is the shittiest of the nullsec empires, run by the worst managers and the worst directors. Even the shittiest nullsec block has better internal communication and command and control than CCP does. Like, you don't see these left-hand, right-hand issues in nullsec empires, even the crappy ones, because they're punished. Like, you lose shit, you lose space, bad things happen. Orgs have meetings, they have systems of communications. It's critical to know what the left hand is doing when you're trying to do something with the right hand. Wow.
This gets even better. So someone made a post that I didn't even think about till just now, in a reply to the Larkin post. That 5% number is probably more like 0.5% of the people making money, because that 5% is accounting from C1s all the way up to C6s. Whereas groups like Bombers Bar hang out in C2s. The guys that always do like the big fleets that come out of wormhole space, they live in C2s. So you might have 0.5% actually making all the money in the C5, C6s. Not even 5%. You know what I mean? That's insane.
Well, there's been a breakdown, like at the management, like so the devs are. I actually feel like some of the devs are stronger than we've seen in a while since like the Veritas era. But there's this, I don't know what you consider them at CCP, maybe middle management layer. That there's a
Yeah, you
breakdown.
talked about this a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Here's my thing, and I'm going to go on opinion here. CCP doesn't have a vision. They don't. Like they're going to try to claim they do, but they don't. They don't have an idea of how to implement like grand concepts or like a kind of a Northern Star concept to what that actually means for changes in the game. Like there's this whole middle layer missing that translates, direction and leadership from like a Hilmar level or a senior executive level down to the developers. It's just gone. Like with Andy departing, I don't know if I'm not going to blame it all on Andy. Like one person shouldn't have caused all this, but they've had enough turnover now where if the people in the management don't know Eve, they just don't know it. And they don't have the ability to translate high-level direction into a vision that becomes an actual objective for the developer to code. Like it's just not there. And I don't think it's been there since Andy's left. And I think it was probably missing slightly before Andy left.
It was missing ever since CCV Unifex left. Basically, there was, before Siegel was made executive producer, there was an 18 months of period of time after John Lander, CCP Unifex, stepped down from the executive producer position and went over to work at Atlanta before he then went off to a great success at Bethesda. So for 18 months, they were trying to hire somebody as an executive producer, and then they couldn't. And they finally took CCV Siegel and made her the executive producer because there was nobody else, basically. And then since then, back in the day, the players really knew the names of all the CCP guys, right? Like we knew their CCP names or whatever. Like, we now everybody remembers still like Rise and Fozzie and stuff like that. But, back in the day, it would be Veritas and, of course, now I'm spacing on a variety of names. So I guess the point I'm making is Veritas and Soundwave and Sriegs and Dolan and fucking Over.
Okay, this comes back to FanFest too, right? Like, they're not having a centralized FanFest in Iceland where all the devs are pretty much required to show up and hang out. You're only meeting 2 or 3 devs at every event, so you're not getting to know anyone else building the game right now.
Still there. Like there's been the org churn is like one of those things that's a real sign of danger for any kind of human organization. Like when you see churn at the top or middle levels, usually it's a bad sign for any sort of entity. And Vegas is going to be really interesting. I mean, Vegas is going to be coming up here in a few weeks. I don't know who is coming from CCP that is going to be there. There's a big list on the Vegas sign-up sheet. I don't know if all of them are going to be there or not, but I think it's going to be kind of awkward for everyone, especially because now the players have got to get together and have a bunch of meetings with the players to arrange for next year's Vegas because whatever. Oh, hey, did you guys find out, or was it mentioned in the minutes? I haven't read them yet. Anything to explain the skull-fuckingly stupid idea of not having Eve Vegas be a thing after this year? Are there any answers about that nonsense?
Let me see. I can't break any. So I will say we spent a substantial amount of time dogpiling the individual responsible for that decision. It's our opinion is very clear to that individual, but I don't know that they're going to change their mind.
Well, it doesn't really matter what they want or what they think because we in the player base will make sure that Vegas happens next year. And if it simply happens to be under our auspices again, which is how Eve Vegas started, was run by Goonswarm Federation, then we will simply go back to running it for the good of the player base as a whole. And these people can go back to whatever sort of nonsense they're up to. But Vegas has now become, for a lot of people, more of a work trip because of whatever idiocy.
I mean, think about this. Think about the decision that they made. They took the largest player event and canceled it for next year.
Probably because some random baby-backed bitch in Iceland was afraid their penis would shrink because more people want to go party in Vegas than they do in Reykjavik.
No, I think it's less than that.
Been a continual
I think it's because they probably got a cheaper deal in San Diego and they were looking to save money.
San Diego is a shitload more expensive than Vegas. That's absolutely not the case.
Like, I don't think either of those are the reason, but it's either. It doesn't matter what the reason is. It was a dumb decision.
Yeah. Well, whatever.
Here's
are going to have to plan Vegas. So
here's someone brings this to my attention and asked me to bring this up. We were talking about the wormholes being what we've found from the data, extremely safe.
Lying.
Yeah. So this is from Omega Gold. Someone asked him, you used to live in wormhole space with your Russian friends. Was there any risk there? And Omega replies, it was solid. I lost lots of PvE ships. Please do your research before making your point, because wormhole space is the most dangerous space in EVE. So you had this guy.
Omega sucks at wormholes.
So you had this guy pushing this narrative in front of CCP that wormhole space is extremely dangerous, and we should really worry about that 0-0 space stuff.
Oh, maybe Olmeca, the reason why we don't understand Olmeca is that maybe he has just been using CCP's metrics and numbers this entire time. So maybe that's why he seems so stupid.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But here we go. We got some more EVE stuff to discuss. This is from Eric. This is Eric urges Hilmar to change the policy in place with devs joining large alliances. Nominate adds that they have spoken to a lot of people in CCP that do play on a regular basis, but they always play in tiny corporations and only lets them see a fraction of the full experience that players have. This is hilarious because we've straight up said CCP is literally balancing the game around 10-man to 50-man fleets and alliances and corps, and this makes perfect sense if all they ever fucking do is live in wormholes and play with small groups.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's time for us to, I, for a long time, was very much against the idea of developers being in alliances back in the days when the game was still growing, right? Like the T20 scandal was a real problem because there was no question about EVE's health. There was no question about the developers knowing how EVE worked because the developers were very well integrated into EVE Online back in the day, not just because they were playing in nullsec alliances. The challenge back in the era of the T20 scandal was that the game was so successful that certain developers would cheat and be in leadership positions in nullsec alliances and give Band of Brothers T20 gave them a fucking Saber BPO, for God's sakes, the best interdictor in the game. And was also a director in Band of Brothers. And that was a real problem. But I think that in the modern era, where the biggest threat to the game of EVE Online is not developers cheating for alliances, the biggest threat to EVE Online is that the developers seem to have no idea how the game actually works, I would probably support a change of the policy to letting them play in alliances as long as they weren't like directors, right? Like you could be a line member, for God's sake.
We should give the audience something. There's something the audience doesn't know. There was another dev that was corrupt. And it was CCP Degoris. He got caught using his database access to look things up on people that he was PvPing with.
Yep, that's right.
And most people don't know that story came out. I knew that story.
Oh, here, tell me about this one. I don't remember this one. It's been a while.
The Enslaver. Teenagers have poor judgment. That's the Enslaver, CCP.
Yeah, like basically he was PvP and some guy would beat him and he would go and abuse his access to the database to look up the guy's fit and shit like that. Like not even like embezzlement or stealing or like generating items or anything like that.
You just use it to make his PvP better. Yeah.
Yeah. So CCP popped him. And so, it happens and people don't hear about it. CCP's very quiet about it.
Yeah. That's nothing too bad. I mean, that's just a guy doing something that no one else can do. But here's an interesting thing about the playing in large alliances thing. And someone in chat brought this up. Let me see where I can see where I put it. The joke is made, but I actually think this might be serious. That CCP would have a hard time getting the big 0-0 groups like Goons because the recruiting standards are too high. I think they would struggle to pass. They would struggle to pass the "Are you a human?" test.
Like what we've told them is like, look, you can tell one person in each alliance what we all offered. Any one of the nullsec blocks will boost you in. We don't care which one you play in. Just please play in nullsec and alliance levels. So you can see these issues that only appear at scale.
And that's the thing is you tend to have, and let me ask Anomaly about this because you tend to be the police officer in Goons when it comes to people that break rules. So you would know this. But I could see CCP coming to like an alliance level CEO or a CSM rep and saying, look, we've joined this alliance. Here's our character. Monitor us to make sure we don't do anything we're not supposed to do, and we'll make sure we play the game on an equitable level. I mean, could that be so bad? I mean, we've done that before, right?
It's an offer that we've made repeatedly. I think there have been a couple of cases in the past where we've actually done that.
Yeah.
So I mean,
we've done that with other game companies where we've known CEOs from other game companies or game magazines. They're like, hey, we're in your alliance. We like playing the game, but please make sure our information is not public. We don't want people to know who we are. I mean, this was back when I guess the executive of Sony was playing in Goons.
I knew who Shreeks was. He was the head of security. Remember, Shreeks was the head of security. We knew who he was for years.
Right.
Way back when he was playing, and he had a character in Goonswarm that we knew about and quietly ignored.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I think it's a funny idea here in chat that one of the things we could potentially do is to get an example of high level play. Wibla, I assume that WIBL here is Wibla. I don't know whether it is or not, but suggesting that we could invite some of these guys to suffer through an Illuminati or a Kremlin meeting to see how actually things are done on the ground. I think what would be funny is if you actually did let a dev sit in. It's sort of take your kid to work day.
Yeah, day in the life of a good CEO. Yeah.
God, do we hate CCP that much?
Oh, we're kind of pissed off now, so it does seem like, hey, come to a directorate meeting and suffer as we suffer. But I think it would be really eye-opening. I think they would end up finding out that, amusingly enough, that the player organizations and the large empires are better managed and have better operational understanding of what goes on than their own company does. I mean, our metrics inside of Goonswarm are clearly vastly better than CCP's own. So, yeah.
I even said, hey, why don't you just set up a Jabber relay in each of the old blocks, just a relay to some channel in CCP, put spy characters in each one, whatever you want to call them, and just relay, just to see, to take the pulse, to know what's happening to see what wars are going on and ops, and just half of CCP won't read it, but maybe once or twice a week people will go in there and read all of what the no blocks are doing, just something, so they have some level of introspection into the game.
It would be really nice if our meetings didn't have to be trying to save EVE Online from CCP, which has been the focus of most of our meetings for the last couple of months, because apparently the age of chaos was actually more the age of, oops, we have no understanding of anything involving the basics of how our customers operate, and we nearly ruined the only functional profit center our company has ever had over a matter of 2 months. Whoop. But it would be nice to go back to having meetings about the game itself, and then maybe letting some devs go on a ride along. Most of the stuff is not all that OPSEC really.
Is why are these specific meeting minutes so much more detailed than all the others? Did you guys have something to say to them, like, hey, you need to get more information in these things instead of being so vague? Was that you guys?
There was some of that. I would think a lot of it, though, is more Camille, CCP. What's Camille's CCP name?
Dopamine.
CCP Dopamine.
Okay.
Is really trying to step up. He's following in the footsteps of Guard, and I think Guard might have been a little bit more of a company man and would sanitize them a little bit more. And Camille, I think, is willing to be a little more open. I know him and I have had some discussions on some back and forth on stuff I wanted included, and I know other CSMs have. So he seems to be more willing to kind of go, yeah, let's be a little more transparent. So I think a lot of this is Dopamine.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that these things are out of the minutes. I'm glad that they're being more open about stuff, because just like after the Incarnate crisis, CCP was sort of had to try to say mea culpa, mea maxima culpa to the player base in order to get people playing again and get the sub numbers to stop. So, hopefully we'll see more openness from CCP now that they hopefully are willing to acknowledge how badly they have utterly and completely fucked up in the age of chaos.
One last thing before we have to move on to our second story of the day, and this is CCP would like the AT to come back. However, it requires CCP volunteers to produce the stream. This hints that this AT probably will never come back. Here's the thing about that. A lot of people really like the AT to watch, but not really playing it. But I did like this comment by Aerith, and I want to ask if you were serious when you said this, that the winner of the AT should own the Palpatine Keepstar and get to place it somewhere.
Yeah, I was dead serious. It's not like it's going to be us. We fucking suck at the AT, but we would love for someone to have it so we can have a huge amount of fights over it. Could you imagine all of EVE doing this Thunderdome over that thing? That would be amazing.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, we're in Cool Kids Only mode here now. So at the 45-minute mark on the Meta Show, we try to go into subscribers only mode as a little perk for our guys. So thank you for being a cool kid and assisting. God, yeah, I don't think the
I feel
Alliance
like-
tournament is actually going to be a thing because it's distortionate to the gameplay, and only a few people are actually really into it.
Yeah,
But
I'm
here's what the-
perfectly happy to
sorry.
take the unpopular view here, which is fuck the AT, rest in piss. You didn't add anything to the game except trillions of ISK to a tiny number of people.
Here's
If
why.
the AT does come back, it should be about bragging rights, not about funding your alliance.
Here's
Yeah,
why I like the AT.
transitory.
Oops, sorry.
I was gonna say something like a trophy. The reason I pitched the Palatine is like a trophy. You have to pass it on the next year. Like they have to despawn it and add it somewhere else, or if it's destroyed, they'll make a new one. That's why I like that idea because it's transitory. It's not this permanent injection of wealth into the game.
Like
Right,
that
and
idea.
here's
Or just
here's
do a
another
real.
thing.
I've always been in favor of a real money prize for it. Like, you know, if your company, before you risk fucking the entire thing up and pissing off your new Korean owners, if your company is making, you know, EVE Online is turning millions of dollars of revenue every year, have a $10,000 prize in real money for winning the tournament. It'll get a lot more press, it'll get a lot more attention, and it won't have a distortionate effect on the game itself. Like, essentially, the Alliance tournament for many years was just a handout to Band of Brothers and then to PL, and it was fucking stupid.
See, here's where I like the.
For the last
Oh,
few
sorry.
years, it's been a handout to basically the same group of three alliances, which are really kind of the same group.
They're all wormholes.
Yeah. The fact of the matter is that the people who are most invested in the Alliance tournament are a very small but very loud minority. And, you know, even on the best of the tournaments, the number of concurrent viewers would be like 5,000 to 7,000 people. You know, whatever, like, that's great and all, but it's not the end all and be all of EVE Online.
Even if they didn't have a prize pool, I liked it just simply because it gave us an opportunity to get to know developers, because they would always have these really awesome like developer interviews in between matches. And even if they were pre-recorded interviews, it gave an opportunity for tens of thousands of people that watched to get to know who was making their game. That's something I feel CCP has gotten away from when they lost all their community management people that actually understood the idea of interacting with your community. When you get rid of all that, you lose that intermingling. And so people who can't go to Iceland, which is in the middle of, you know, the North Atlantic, can't meet these developers outside of videos. And so they've gotten away from that. They used to have these like great interviews and great talking videos and all this like community interaction. That's the reason I like the Alliance tournament, was just that. Or even the player, like more recently, the player commercials and getting to know, okay, there's that corp in the game and this corp in the game and stuff like that. That's really awesome.
Sorry, I'm getting a little distracted because
you're fine. You're fine.
Ways to bring fire, blood, and terror to the
I
wormhole
am,
population.
yeah, but while you're coming up with that, I'm going to go ahead and do the giveaway real quick because we have one more big topic. I want to do the giveaway before then. So we're going to stop the giveaway. This is our last chance, exclamation point ticket and a number to get a chance to get it. Yeah, someone says here, another thing I like watching is watching the really, really expensive ships blow up because the people don't pay attention.
This is funny though. We're sitting here in Star Chamber trying to plan out the mechanics of a campaign against wormholers.
I hunger for their pain.
I mean, I can tell you who to contact if you
for fire and fucking blood, and it doesn't matter because they're little small groups, so they won't know what to do when the reaping starts. So little tiny groups, we can just, you know, the thing is that you don't need to have a fair fight. There just needs to be screams, and as long as my people have the screams of a deserving enemy that they despise, we'll have fun. It doesn't matter if it's a little hole with just 50 people or a big hole with 100 people in it. As long as they're screaming and bleeding.
Well, here we go. Why don't we could always just start with Bomber's Bar, right? They're the most like face of wormholers, right? And they have Fortizars and stuff in their wormholes, and they let anybody join. So we could always just start with purging Bomber's Bar. I mean, I'm for purging Bomber's Bar. I don't know about you, but we're gonna close the giveaway here. If you have entered, there's 479 tickets. 72 individual people have a chance to win, and we are gonna draw the winner now in 3, 2, 1. Oaken Ralph, congratulations. Hopefully you have a way to get a hold of me since we're in subscriber only mode. I just realized you probably can't type to the chat.
You can send a PM into the channel.
Yeah, he could PM the channel. Just tell me your EVE character name. He may be a subscriber anyway. But he had a 4% chance to win. So you win the beautiful ship skin. It's worth 2.4 billion ISK right now. It's the ship skin out of Germany for the new Triglavian ships. And so if you can give me your Eve name, I can get you that. Hopefully he's here, or we'll wait till the very end. If you stick around at the end, we always turn subscribers only off, so you can always type there too. If you can't, like, message the channel or something. He says Ralph Drake is a subscriber. All right, cool. You got the type. I will send it to you in a moment. But yeah, so topic number 2, which we didn't, like, we're not gonna have a lot of time on this one, but this is pretty big. Burning Napalm has quit Northern Coalition and joined Pandemic Horde. Earlier this week, we saw Vince Draken leave his own corporation, which is kind of weird. He was a member of in favor of joining another corp in the Alliance. And a few days later, we saw White Arrow, who was the CEO at the time, hand off CEO to someone else in the corp, and the corp dropped from NC. Smell, SM3LL, is also leaving NC as a big blow to them, and because they have a lot of rich assets and lots of supers, and the rumor is they will be joining Pandemic Horde. It really sounds like that their umbrella is just becoming one mega blob, all going into Horde. And
that's exact. Okay,
it's interesting the way that it's very clear that there is an alliance model now that has won, and that is the Empire, the community building based alliance. The elite PvP alliances are all falling apart. They're rotting.
Right. Go ahead, Aerith.
It's more than that. Like, so we spent, I don't know, a year and a half trying to convince them all to huddle up together in Melpay. We knew that when they did so, one of the others would leech the others to death. And that I didn't know that to be Horde. I actually thought it might be NC that leached the rest. But NC now is being leached to death by Horde, and there's nothing Vince can do about it. And now Horde will be the last man standing, and Goblins will be leading all of his people.
It is
so funny.
It is pretty funny. Like we have on the show spent how many episodes of the Meta Show talking up how important and reasonable and good it was for these guys to have an elite PvP alliance move out to bumfuck Malpay, and we're like, yes, this is a good strategic move. Yes, absolutely, very sensible.
Yeah, very good. This is and I'm going to bring up a great point, and this is something I want to point out too, is that the more active, more community-driven alliance is going to gobble up the smaller ones around it. It used to be that was PL. They would poach the most elite talent, and then that would eventually lead to gobbling up a lot of people, but they were very select in how they did it. They never did it on a grand scale, and they always reserved the masses for the meat shield. But now you have Horde, who will literally take anyone. Goblins, who is active on the CSM, he's active in nullsec first, he's active in highsec with his things, he's constantly talking places, gobbling up people. And you see that with Legacy, who have, I mean, some of the people have their autonomy, but in the last months, a lot of the Legacy alliances that were small groups that didn't really do much have all dissolved away and moved into either Brave or Test.
Well, Goblins has really matured as a leader, right? The thing is that if you have tens of thousands of people following you, whether you like it or not, you might sit on the throne, but the throne changes you, right? Like you end up, I don't really recognize myself anymore from the era before I ended up running Goonsword. Like I thought I would be a bad leader, right? I thought that I couldn't handle it, and I ended up being sort of twisted into whatever the fuck I am now. I love it, I enjoy it, but I think Gobbins has, at first he was running an entity that was designed to be a meat shield for PL, and then PL and NC never adapted to a skill injector environment, and they also lost every super capital battle they ever fought against us, so their whole elite PvP thing never really worked out very well for them. It just
died off, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that the pressures of command has gradually turned Goblins into an autocrat. Like I can have normal autocrat to autocrat conversations with them, and it didn't used to be that way. So good on him.
Something else I've noticed, it seems like he's passed the threshold that all leaders need to pass, is he's willing to let pragmatism trump his pride now. Whereas like a Vince and the PL types, they need that pride of the vicious nomad mongrel hordes, and we're not tied to space, and we're the best. We have renters. Whereas Goblins finally said, you know what, we're going to go ahead and mimic Goons or mimic the Empire model, and we're going to care less about our pride than we're going to care about being effective. And that's a sign of a good leader.
That's an interesting comment to make, because it was Killer B just a month ago on this show who said that was their reason for moving to Malpai, was to try to embrace, or maybe this was like 6 months ago maybe now, embrace the idea of getting rid of pride and getting rid of this elite PvP mentality, and realizing that some of their line members may want to PvE, And that's not a bad thing. And he made a point of saying that he was trying to convince Vince to gobble up as many people as humanly possible because it was needed to survive. And it sounds like they just didn't do it, or they didn't do it fast enough. One of the two.
I think he finally decided Vince wasn't going to come, and he's going to be the guy now. Like, he's now the master in that relationship, and Vince is his bitch. Like, that's what is occurring right now. It's a big meta change. Like, people should pay attention to that.
Right. And that's an interesting thing. So, Oaken, Ralph, your contract is up. Make sure you accept it, please. I don't like leaving contracts because I'll forget about them. So this is an interesting thing, because if I think about this for a moment, right now at this moment, you have NC Dot deployed against Sword Dragon's group, and they're actively PvPing and doing things. So an alliance that's active and doing things and is going after structures and going after ships and killing Titans and Supers just lost an alliance due to just lost a corp that was probably one of their most notable ones due to reasons. That's a little concerning for the health of NC Dot. That's actually
it's a fail cascade. We're starting to see a fail cascade of loss of confidence in leadership. Vince has been pretty AFK. NC's not doing anything of note. They're just stagnating and dying, which is what happens to those alliances when they don't do anything, right? For years, we in Goonswarm have tried to make sure that we have an enemy and somewhat barbarians of the gate. So, like, Bomber's Bar or something like that, and Dells tries to serve that function, right? You got to thin out the herd to make the rest of the herd run faster and to keep the guys in fighting shape, right? And to have some level of attrition in your space for producers to produce. But NC hasn't had that. Like, a lot of these other people haven't had that realization that your people must be stressed a little to make them more productive. And
peace as hell. Yeah, like they moved to an area. They went from an elite PvP organization which held PvE in contempt, even though PvE is what makes your warships, and they moved to an area that has no NPC space. Like, one of the reasons why the Imperium is as successful as we are is that in Delve and in Fountain, there is NPC space, so there is never any real security. You always have to have at least some degree of vigilance, otherwise you will have your spaceships blown up. So it gets your low-level guys combat experience. It generally keeps people vigilant and alert. And, basically they moved out to, like, it's like moving out to Amist, right? Moving out to the drone regions. It's where alliances go to die unless they're rental organizations. Which is why the friends are mostly renters.
I have a theory. Before the blackout, they could literally abuse their Titans and Supers and chase around everyone. I remember I took a fleet there of Hurricanes, and every system for like 30 jumps was, we're probably going to get Doomsday, guys. Just be prepared to die. Because we had like 8 interceptors chasing us everywhere we went, all from PLNC Dot. But when blackout hit, they had no idea where things were at all times other than like a select few systems. It wasn't like their whole space was lit up like a Christmas tree where they could follow people around. Then you get rid of the fact that it's easy sinos and you have to put lots of effort and work into them. And that probably killed them right there. That's probably the death nail. It's the fact that they now have to put a lot of effort and able to do their one plan in life, which is to get easy kills from their umbrella. That's gone now. They have to actually put effort in, and I think they're too far gone to put effort.
So I just connected, changing the subject a little bit. I just connected something in the minutes with something that I saw in Hobo Leaks the other day. C-Suite Fozzie starts a sentence with hypothetically and suggests random chaotic space effects. Like, what kind of weather effects would the CSM want to see? Okay. I just read this, and when I was looking at Hobo Leaks the other day, there is a thing called a Triglavian Stellar Accelerator, which appears to have... is this a thing in Abyssal sites?
I don't know. It's been out for a few days on Hobo Leaks, Noisy Gamer says.
But it
I don't know.
Seems to have...
Hold on, let's turn off... hold on, we're gonna have to turn off subscriber only just because we're out of time too, but I want to hear someone reply to this. It may not be a subscriber.
It sounds like Triglavian installation appears to be manipulating the local spatial temporal blah 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 with effect.
Okay, it's in invasion foothold systems, so it's in those high sec systems. I think these are the spots where the damage shields and stuff. I think it's a new site. I don't know why.
So-
Why?
so they're
Hey, why are we
actually
bringing it
already
up? Go ahead.
doing it.
Are you
Oh,
saying
if
that?
it's already in the game, then I've just missed it.
But what could you say this is? You're saying this is something for like traveling across space? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, one of the things that that Fozzie was talking about in the minutes, it's is weather effect.
Oh yeah, it says right here. It's a system has each system has wide effects: 30% to warp and tracking, and 10% plus 10% mining speed. So it's like the wormhole bonuses, but put into the invasion. Yeah, bring in wormhole space to high sec and low sec. That's what it sounds like they're doing according to Nosy Gamers. So
We have a bunch more work to do now, organizationally speaking, because I am still pissed off about these pathetic wretches in Wormhole Space daring to look down their noses at the rest of the game and act like they are somehow better than the rest of the player base for, it's 2019, Wormholes were like 2009, 2008. For like the last decade, these people have looked down upon the rest of the player base, and it turns out that they were lying about fucking everything. They were actually enjoying easy mode better than local. And all of their fights were arranged. They have been lying to the entire player base for all of this time, and we're going to try to find ways to make them scream and suffer for it. Maybe not the top 5 ones. We'll start small. We'll figure it out, because all that really matters is that they understand their place in the fucking food chain. So yeah,
they're also the most vocal. They're the most vocal minority on Reddit, complaining about how 0-0 has it so easy.
Well, let's make sure that they. I'm sure that since they are the most hardcore of warriors in EVE Online, they'll have no problem when we come calling for their screams, because surely they'll beat us.
Hard Knocks got wiped out, but what about Laserhawks? Have they been hit yet? Like the other half?
We have target acquisition. We're not going to be talking about who we're going after what. In fact, I plan on us testing on Why Fight Fair. Since they have been so shitty to us, the entire point is for us to be shitty to them. We'll pick upon the weak and the small to test our tactics. We will find something that screams and bleeds loudly, and there will be no fair fights. There will be no mercy. There will simply be us putting them in their place one after the other as we figure things out. Surely we will fuck things up here and there. There will be errors. We'll have to learn how to do hole control. But we now know that these people are much weaker and softer than they have been claiming to be for some time now. So as long as they scream, we'll have our fun. And with that,
I just want to point out, we got to go here in a minute. I just want to thank everyone for watching the show today, tuning in, our subscribers, donators, followers. Also, I want to point out that of all the wormholers that, I dislike a lot of them, but I will say Laserhawks are pretty cool because they helped us in the drone lands when we were poking at all the solve that NC.dot held. And they were really cool and actually went and hack solve. They were the only wormholers I've ever seen want to hack solve. And they were pretty cool dudes. So I think they were Laserhawks. They came on the show, actually. Yeah, it was Laserhawks. But Hard Knocks, I don't like those guys. So, we got to go.
Thanks for coming, guys, and we will see you next week. Thank you to our CSM guests for telling us what's up with CCP. And, we will see you all.
Yep. Bye.
You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching The Meta Show.